Thank you. So I want to start off with a simple, not so simple question, how to stop climate change. And here you just see a picture of climatescience.org. And there are many different answers to these questions. And today I want to zoom into our personal actions that can be complemented, for example, by technology actions. So we look into the behaviors of individuals. And therefore I want to introduce to you Anna and Tom, in order to see how often individual level environmental sustainability is addressed in our daily life if we read the newspapers on tips how to save energy, or if we use the tram that tells us that we're actually protecting climate on our daily work to university. Also, if Anna watches TV and she sees a campaign about the promotion of regional and seasonal food consumption, she might reflect her own consumption patterns. And Tom has recently installed WhatsApp in order to help him live a more sustainable life with tips throughout the day on food and energy consumption. So why is this important? Individuals play a really relevant role when it comes to stopping climate change, and the IPCC has therefore defined that behavioral change is fundamental and that it has to happen immediately in order to stay below 1.5 degrees. And we already see that there are different perspectives that we need to include in order to have a nuanced understanding of the roles of individuals for environmental sustainability. As such, are individuals consumers, or they also citizens or people that invest in something? Do we look into their motivations or do we look into their impacts? So it's important to ask the question, which action should we take? And what's the footprint of these actions, for example? What's the impact? And what motivates these actions? One of these motivations can be, for example, if you're really connected to nature. And therefore, different researchers from a set of various disciplines have developed over 70 concepts in order to capture individual actions and individuals' dispositions across different research fields. And what comes to show is a fragmented picture. So one of these concepts that I'm going to talk about, or one of the concepts, are biospheric values or green consumer values. And the problem that my dissertation addressed is that the research streams are quite isolated. So if I'm from environmental psychology and you're from marketing, we actually are researching on quite similar topics, but our knowledge is not integrated. And that then can further limit the further process of actually contributing to knowledge on individual action. So the aim of my dissertation was a knowledge synthesis about the many different concepts that capture individual actions on environmental sustainability in order to provide a common knowledge base for then develop behavioral interventions, for example. So the first paper, I had three. The first paper was an integrative review and taxonomy of the different concepts that I then sorted into different contextual scopes. Are these concepts addressing, for example, my public behavior and my activism, or my consumption behavior, or my household behavior? Zooming into the household behavior, the second paper then looked into what motivates an exemplary pro-environmental behavior, such as local and seasonal food consumption. And it can be my green consumer values that drive this behavior, but it can also be ethnocentrism, for example, if I value the local economy. We therefore measured the preferences of individuals, their behaviors, and we also measured their values that they hold. So how much do I consider environmental consequences when I purchase something? So here you can see a choice task that measures their behavior, and then we saw that the reason why they would purchase this apple from Austria over the one from the Netherlands or Poland is that they actually want to contribute to the local economy rather than to environmental issues. So here we saw a trade-off between the different values that drive our behaviors, and this was actually more related to economic sustainability and not environmental sustainability. The third paper then looked into the disruption through COVID and how our values are changed before and after COVID when our context changes. So for example, if we can't be sure that the local agri-food sector can supply us with food anymore, will we think differently about local food? And the result of the third paper here was actually after some initial shocks, the local agri-food sector could supply us sufficiently with food. That's why the values of the people before and after COVID, for example, regarding local food consumption, remained quite stable. So we saw stable context, stable dispositions. So 3 important discussion points on integrated and interdisciplinary research occurred from my dissertation. The first regards the measures. So we have disciplinary diversity, which is positive, but the many different perspectives are not integrated in each other. So we might measure things with different operationalization. The second point, which arose from my thesis, was that there is a focus on the individual as a consumer, but individuals can also, for example, vote or invest or be in companies and do something there. So that's another critique point. And the third critique point, or a third discussion point of my dissertation was if Anna is, for example, from research field A, environmental psychology, and Thomas from environmental engineering, we might research on the same thing, but we need a certain boundary object in order to improve our collaborations. So future research should therefore look into identifying these boundary objects that are between different disciplines, and one of them can be pro-environmental behavior that is addressed by different disciplines. And if we know that we're talking about the same thing, that might facilitate a common knowledge base. So concludingly, I found that individuals are actually at the interface of different transition pathways, and the many contributions to the research on individuals actually show how complex it is to assess the environmental consequences, but also possibilities of our current lifestyles. Thank you.